My family has always been sick. We've always had cancer. We've always had depression, whatever, or the whole list of, oh, poor me's. And you carry that mindset that your family gave you. You are destined to live the same life that your parents led. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that is probably one of the most important things to think about as of the past couple of years or so. So I think this is a great time to rule out the placebo effect. So for those of you who do not know what the placebo effect is, by definition, it is a beneficial effect produced by a placebo drug or treatment, which cannot be attributed to the properties of the placebo itself and must therefore be due to the patient's belief in that treatment, right? So that means if I give you something, how do you feel about what it is that I give you? Have you had any negative experiences with this drug? Have you taken it and it didn't work for you and attached a negative experience to it? Or did you take this antibiotic when you were a kid and it was like a miracle cure for you? And so you only feel as though that is going to be the thing that's going to work for you. It's like when we were kids, right? If we had a cough, most of our parents were going to lean towards giving us cough medicine, right? Some syrupy cough medicine, we'll call it Robitussin. And so Robitussin always knocked out your colds when you were a kid. And now when you're an adult, and you get a cough or you get a cold, your body says, oh, you know what you really need? Robitussin. Nothing else will work. Even if you had the same product, right, called something else, Vicks came out with, or Dayquil, Dayquil versus Robitussin. It's the same exact everything. All the artificial colors, all the same active ingredients, inactive ingredients. But you always felt as though Robitussin worked for you. So say you were sick and you went to the store and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I need Robitussin. And you grab the Vicks instead and you take it and you're like, you know what? This didn't work. I don't feel like this is going to work for me. I need to keep searching for Robitussin. So you go from store to store to store to store to store. You go online. You see, where can I find old school Robitussin? You find it, grab it, take it, cool, it's gone. Was it the Robitussin that healed you, or was it your mind's concept of what you attached to Robitussin, your subconscious mind, where you always felt Robitussin always worked for me, therefore it always will continue to work for me because I believe that it will. This is the placebo effect. There has been so much research that has been done in this field because a lot of doctors, and in my opinion, a lot of medical doctors fear it, right? Because they've done studies on, is this medication necessary? Is this surgery necessary? Or is it useless compared to placebo? And now a lot of the studies that were done weren't even double-blind studies. And if you're not familiar with that, double-blind means that the patient and the doctor have no idea who's getting what. In typical theory, you'd have a control group and then you'd have the experimental group. So a control group, either one could be, control group could be given the placebo. Experimental group is going to be given the medication. Neither one knows what it is. They're told what it's supposed to help with. They take it, they feel it, they get assessed afterwards. They don't even do that. They legitimately write placebo pill and compare placebo pill compared to medications, and still the outcomes are almost identical, right? And when you take a placebo, you don't have the negative side effects attached to a placebo because it's not forcing your body against its will. When you take a medication, even if the effects are the same or similar, that's the effects that you are looking to achieve, not taking into consideration all of the side effects that you just caused through medication consumption. Now, this became very fascinating to me, and I remember this. I was in Life University. I was in chiropractic school at the time, And I remember Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, coming to our school. And at the time, I'm like joking around with his name. I'm like, oh, Lipton iced tea. My mom likes Lipton iced tea. Just being stupid. And then I heard the dude speak. And my mind was just like, what? What? You're talking about epigenetics. You're talking about the subconscious mind. You're talking about this. Like, it was one of those things where I probably, if I look back and if there was video of it, my mouth would just probably drop the entire time. Just like completely blown away, because he stacked theory with actual research. So it was actual science, like real science. Like, this is what he kind of dedicated his life to, was the epigenetics and doing these types of things. Bruce Lipton did, right? And then from there, with the epigenetic component, we now have Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is one of the leaders in the subconscious mind space, where it's taking that kind of to the same level or the next level, depending on how you perceive Lipton versus Dispenza. But Lipton was one of those guys who originally did research and got shit for it, because he was like, look what I can find out. Like, look at this, look at that, right? So his goal was to find epigenetic components. So how does our environment change our internal expression of genes, our internal expression of health? Now, the environment can also be combined in here, right, with what we give ourselves, what we feed ourselves, what foods, what medications, what herbs we take, okay? And if we don't have that same unwavering confidence, okay, we have two herbs or two things, right? We'll go blood pressure medication or blood thinner, right? We'll go blood thinner. Doctor gives you blood thinner, and you know it's a medication. You've always been told to trust your doctor. You've always been told that this medication, warfarin, rat poison, will thin the blood, right? And then I come in and I say, well, guess what? Turmeric can do the same thing. And you're like, oh, what now? Turmeric? I've never heard of that. Are you sure? So you're suspicious of turmeric. You don't believe it, right? Even though turmeric can do the same, if not better, than warfarin or blood thinner medications, you don't believe it. Therefore, your body blocks the innate potential of turmeric once inside the body. Therefore, warfarin is going to work better than turmeric, right? So there's this innate battle that can come about. And one of the studies that blew me away was around the time I was in chiropractic school, and it was probably right after Bruce Lipton spoke. It was about an anabolic steroid study versus placebo, okay? Which, again, when you think about it, we think like when you're juiced up, like your body is going to respond a certain way. And in this study, they had people who were taking anabolics, and then they had people who were taking a saline injection or injectable for a shot, and neither one knew what was going on. They had similar strength improvement, size improvement. Like, it was almost identical to what the people receiving anabolics were getting. And so they're like, well, you don't need to be on anabolic steroids if you pretend, more or less, if you make believe, if you pretend, you believe in your subconscious mind that you are already taking them. Okay, which just blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, like that's huge, right? Because you inject testosterone, you instantly are going to have higher levels of testosterone that's going to taper as it kind of gets washed out of the body through estrogen and detoxification. But instantly, you should just get that thing up. And I know there's certain half-lives and things you need to wait like 2-4 weeks or so to the full effects to be found and seen. But still, when we're talking about anabolics versus placebo to be almost identical, kind of was like, well, all right, that's cool. And then I heard about a knee surgery one. And this is a story. I was trying to find the exact story. I cannot seem to find it, but I promise you can fact check, but you can dig deep. I don't know where they hid this story, but they did a knee surgery study. And there was a doctor that was doing knee surgeries, and he was doing sham knee surgeries as well. So he was doing, I think there were knee replacements or something with the knee, okay? The gist of it is there was a surgeon doing surgery, then there was a surgeon that would just poke little holes like it was arthroscopic surgery. And patients would come off the table and he'd be like, how's the pain? How are you feeling? What's going on? And they would get up and they're like, oh, we're good. And if I remember correctly, the people with the placebo surgery actually had better performance afterwards than those with an actual surgery, right? And so that's one of these studies. And so then they did another one. I'm just giving you a ton of research here, but they did another one. So this one was published in British study in the Lancet Journal. There was 200 patients with a blocked artery. Okay, they're randomly assigned to either get a real stent operation or a fake one. We're talking the heart, ladies and gentlemen. A real stent or a fake stent. In the real version, a surgeon snaked a balloon-tipped catheter through an artery in the groin or up the arm up into the blockage, widening the vessel by inflating the balloon. And they kept it open with a tube-like stent made of wire mesh. And then in a sham procedure, the catheter was directed to the blockage, but the surgeon only pretended to do the rest. The astonishing finding, there was no difference in how the patients felt 6 weeks after the surgery. Both groups reported less pain and both reported better results on the treadmill stress test. Right? We're talking about blockage of an artery requiring a stent to be put in there. These patients were randomly assigned, right? It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna give like the 10% blockage of placebo and see what happens. Like, this is random, right? And if you require stent surgery, you have to have some pretty blocked arteries. Otherwise, why would you do the surgery to begin with, right? So that was just one study. That was with the heart and with the balloon. No difference there. Then they did this one. This one was pretty neat too. This is the first time I saw this one. This is Harvard talking about a study that they did. In 2010, Harvard gave 40 patients with irritable bowel syndrome a placebo. Each patient received a bottle clearly labeled placebo pills and was told that they were made of an inert substance which had been shown to help IBS sufferers. Okay? A second group of 40 IBS patients were given no pills at all, and they served as the control group. Okay? After 3 weeks, the group who took the placebo pills reported twice as much symptom relief compared to those with no pills at all. Okay? Now, here's where things get interesting. The relief provided by the placebo pills worked as well as the best IBS medications that are out there. Okay? So the study that they did was placebo versus control. So taking something versus not, and knowing you're taking basically placebo versus nothing, and then taking that literature and looking at the effects of the placebo versus the leading medications that are out there. And again, every single medication is going to have a negative impact on the body. Every single one that is out there. If you don't believe me, then why the hell are there side effect pamphlets that you get when you take a medication? Medications force the body against its will to do something that is desired. So whether that's blood pressure medication is going to stop your blood pressure from raising up high. If you've got, I don't know, blood pressure is usually the easiest one. Get fired up here. But if you take something like that and you know it's going to suppress your blood pressure, then you innately think, okay, well, if I take this blood pressure medication, this blood pressure lowering medication, then you already assume that medications are good for you, right? Some people will assume that medications are good for you, but then you'll also say, well, because medications are good for me and this medication says it lowers my blood pressure, therefore I believe that it's going to lower my blood pressure because it is a medication. So other impacts of placebo effect, and even in terms of like what your subconscious mind can do for you or do to you. Okay, now crossing between the Bruce Lipton and the Joe Dispenza, how we feel, what emotion we attach on a certain medication or what we intend for a certain outcome. They've also done studies where your perception of truth can also have an impact on your body. And one of the studies that they found out was that if you get a diagnosis, if you have a terminal diagnosis and your doctor, your oncologist says you have 3 months to live, gather up your things, you're going to die in 3 months, get your affairs in order, blah, 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 3 months. And your body receives that and it says, oh, shit, I knew this was going to happen. This happened to my friend, Sammy over here, or this person, or this happened. Like, I'm going to end up just like them. I should have done something different. It's too late now. Doctor says there's nothing I can do. I just have to do this. And you believe it. Hook, line, and sinker. your body will rewire itself to die on a 3-month date. From that day, you will be wired to die. Words are like medicine to our bodies, and how we perceive words is how our body is going to perceive and allow it to imprint on us. This is something I talk about with a lot of my patients, is that if someone's saying negative things to you, and I can speak to this because I was bullied basically my entire childhood. My name was Jacque, for goodness sakes. Like, the amount of stuff I got from that made me tough, but I can understand where things are coming from. A lot of it's displacement, but it's beside the point. When people are throwing, words, hurtful things at you, right? It is up to us how we perceive that, right? Is it stressful? And if so, why is it stressful? Someone says, I hate you. And you immediately like, yeah, I hate myself too. Yeah, I don't really like myself. And it's just, it's one of those things. You deflate your posture. You just start sagging. You're like, I'm just always depressed. And it's just kind of what I always do. And I'm sorry. And you just apologize. You accept their words. You put a negative meaning behind it, and you take it personally, and you hold it personally. And then you start building these experiences in your life that every time somebody says that they hate you, you stack it into the vault. This is my hate vault. Everybody hates me. I hate myself. Like, this is just who I am. And it becomes your identity. Okay? Same thing with medications. If you're told, right? If you're like, hey, if you get sick and you're like, hey, Ma, what did I used to take when I was a kid that always used to help me out? And she was like, you would chomp on 15 bulbs of garlic and that would get you over any cold. You're an adult. You're like, she says 15 bulbs. She could have just made that up. And you just throw down 15 bulbs of garlic and you're like, oh, I smell disgusting. Oh, but I feel great, right? Because I place high value, I place high emphasis on what my mom says. So therefore, if she says that's what I did and it worked, I assume that to be true until otherwise proven different. Okay? So they've done these studies with medications. They've done it with surgeries. They've done it with, heart surgery, knee surgery. There's the knee surgery that I was trying to talk about was, they basically did I think this was Harvard as well, but basically what they found out was that there was no difference. I think it was 180 patients with osteoarthritis, and they were going to go get knee surgeries done. And they did placebo surgery, and then they did real surgery and found that there was no difference between placebo and real surgery again. So there is so much literature on this stuff, but yet it's still so underspoken, so underappreciated, because ultimately the powers that be, don't want us to know that we have this internal innate ability to heal our bodies, right? And we can choose what heals. We can choose what does not heal. Or we could just be, a kayak in the middle of the ocean. We're just waiting for somebody to blow us in one direction or another. And then we have no power. Right? Some disempowerment, lack of power. When we talk about placebo effect too, we talked about like the turmeric example with like the warfarin and things, but the other thing that happens, and it's to no fault of a patient, but like patients will come to me and they'll say, my doctor told me I always have to be on this baby aspirin, right? Which is quite honestly, it's a horrible thing to be on. If anybody's on baby aspirin, stop it. And so you're like, well, my doctor always told me I have to take this baby aspirin. If I don't, I'm going to have a heart attack. Right? And then theoretically speaking, if you believe that, hook, line, and sinker, you stop taking the baby aspirin, and maybe in a month you get a heart attack. You're like, see, I told you if I stop taking this medication, I'm going to have a heart attack. That could be one scenario. You programmed yourself to have a heart attack because you felt so strongly about it. Now, the other thing that we'll see is people will be on these medications and we'll get phenomenal results, right? And I know when, I can't tell people to get on or off medications, but I know when you no longer need certain things, especially if you're on like a blood pressure medication, you're trying to suppress your blood pressure, and then we start doing protocol, and all of a sudden you're having a hypo or too low of blood pressure. You're getting all the symptoms associated with it. I'm like, listen, like you may want to go and talk to your doctor about this medication. I don't know if you need it anymore. We can run the test for you to give that doctor, but you may want to go to your PCP or your cardiologist and let them know, hey, I have symptoms as though I have low blood pressure. What are you going to do about it? And then there's two roads that people could walk down, where the doctor gets pissed off, which they usually do, and they say, stop all those herbs. That's not working for you. You need your medication. That doctor's a quack. Don't listen to him. And you're like, well, you know what? And you come to me like, you're like, doc, I need to quit care. My doctor doesn't think this is good for me. So therefore I'm going to quit. I need a refund or whatever it is. And you're like, okay, that's fine. Go on your journey. Because my goal is just to make you as healthy as you want to be. If you don't want to be healthy, I can't force you to do that. There's no hard feelings, right? So that's one direction people can go. Or they can be like, listen, I've done my research. I know that I don't need this medication. And if I continue to take it, right, my root cause is being corrected. So therefore, if I have normal blood pressure and I'm taking a medication to lower my blood pressure, then I'm going to go too low, and therefore I need to come off that medication. So people will come off of it by themselves. And then we'll monitor. We'll see how they're doing. We can run tests. You can do just basic things at home. You can go to Walgreens and stick your arm in a sleeve and get your blood pressure, do all that stuff. You can have heart rate variability. There's so many things that you can do. But as long as you believe that your body has the ability to be able to heal, you can heal. If you shut that down and you say, my body does not have the ability to do it, my family has always told me, I'm making this up, so mom and dad, if you're listening, I'm not speaking directly to you. My family has always been sick. We've always had cancer. We've always had IBS. We've always had ADHD. We've always had heart palpitations, depression, whatever, or the whole list of oh poor me's. And my family's always had that. And you carry that mindset that your family gave you, you are destined to live the same life that your parents led. And at some point you might get frustrated, but then what do? Do you jump ship and know that your body can heal itself? Or do you just maintain developing further anxiety because you know that you're going against what your body was designed to do and designed to be? There is so much power in this thought. And when I said power, Megan, if you're listening here, when you listen to this, I just think of like our kids love this EDM song. It's Power. It's like, this is power. And they sing it all through the house. Anyways, you have the power to choose and accept what heals your body. You can choose and accept poison, which is medications, or you can choose to accept holistic healing herbs. And you might be like, well, doc, you're saying that medications are poisonous. And you're saying that, are you putting that negative connotation in my mind that I believe that medications won't work, so then they won't work? It's more like the Wizard of Oz. You have been lied to your whole life, being told that medication, vaccines, all those things will save your life. Okay? All I'm doing is pulling back the curtain to say, that's been placebo the entire time. And now your lists of medical complaints are continuing to grow. Each year, you have created a new diagnosis, which requires a new medication, which has a new negative side effect, which requires a new medication. And you keep going down this same pipeline. I'm just blowing away the smoke and mirrors. I'm lifting up the curtain for you to understand what true healing actually is. And personally, I don't feel anybody can be healthy on any medication at all. If you've got one medication, I don't feel that if you take one medication that you can ever hit your full 100% God-given potential, right? Because we're taking something from the outside that was not created by God, that was created by man in a lab through altering where true healing originally came from, right? We call it modern medicine for a reason. There is traditional Chinese medicine that has been around so much longer. There is herbal medicine. There's plant medicine. There is, I'll call it jungle medicine with frogs and kambo and bufo and ayahuasca. And there are all of these things that have been around for so many years. So many years. One of the sexy ones right now that I'm getting so much heat on TikTok for is the semaglutide. Okay? And that was derived from goat's rue. because people were taking it back in the day for type 2 diabetes. And then people were like, well, how do we create something that mimics metformin came from goat's rue. And so goat's rue has been pushed aside and people are now being prescribed metformin. Now there's different theories saying, well, metformin is still super good for you, even though it's a medication. I don't believe that. It's just my own personal preference. Depletes your B12, and a lot of people, B12 will stop with methylation, decrease your detoxability. If you have MTHFR, can exploit that, can damage nervous system, those types of things. So to me, I'm like, why wouldn't you take goat's rue, right? Do like how they used to. Now, Rockefeller came in 100-some years ago, whenever the hell he was around, that jackass, and started saying, I want to synthetically make these medications, right? Pharmaceuticals. And he was big in oil. So he was using all of his ties to do that. Plus, he was the richest man in the world, so he could do whatever the hell he wanted. And so he basically stopped our ability to use herbal medicine, tinctures and plants and teas and whatnot. And I said, well, no, from now on, we're just going to take synthetic pills. That's what we're going to do, right? It's just getting worse. I mean, Rockefeller started it, but it's just getting worse now. We're talking about digital identification, vaccines that fuck with our DNA. Like, come on. It's getting way out of control. We got to go back to our roots. No pun intended, talking about plants. But we need to understand that modern medicine has only been around for as long as it has been, 100 years, several hundred years, okay? Traditional Chinese way, herbals, these types of things, these concoctions, tinctures, etc., mushrooms have been a way of life for so many years, thousands of years, probably millions of years. As far as the earth has been created, these plants were given to us from God. They were put on the freaking earth and they have medicinal properties. How is that by accident? I don't think that it is. I don't think that it was. Right? To me, I go another level. This is my own suspicion. Call me a conspiracy theorist on it. But I believe that certain plants were created in certain climates, certain altitudes, etc., to protect the people of the environment from things that they needed protection from. Okay? So what do I mean by that? So say you're in a spot where you've got parasites all in the water. There's always parasites all day, every day. And then you've got plants and stuff around you. You find access to wormwood and you find golden seal and you find all these herbs. You're like, what? Like, oh, so like where all these parasites are on, I'm making this up, guys. On the riverbank, there's wormwood, there's golden seal, there's whatever else you need. There's certain seeds that can help to dislodge them. Maybe there's pumpkins. You take pumpkin seed and knock out some parasites, right? And so you had these herbal plants that were designed to be in your given spot, your given radius of life. But then we got transplanted all over the place. None of us from where we were created is where we are right now. So now we have herbs and we have stuff all over the place, and our body's like, well, how do we come back to center? Right? I got 15 pounds. Got 15 pounds of herbs coming. Don't worry, I'm going to be posting all my concoctions and stuff on Instagram. But this is the way life should be. We should be able to raise our own plants for our climate. Like, we should be able to do the things, live off the earth, live out of the ground, plant the things that we need to based off of the environment that we are currently in. Okay? We need to start understanding that medications are not saviors. They're not. Okay? They stop a symptom from expressing itself, which means it's literally stopping your innate intelligence from doing its job. Right? It's like you have a bunch of people over and one of your bedrooms catches on fire and you go up there and you put duct tape on the dude's mouth and you're like, shut up, don't tell anybody. And you're like, like, hey, and then all of a sudden you start hearing pounding on the wall and it's like, what the heck is that? And you hear crackling, pounding, like, there was just the crackling, now there's pounding too. And somebody else comes upstairs and like, oh my gosh, there's a fire, and Johnny over there is trying to pound down the wall to let everybody know. And you're just like, shut up, don't tell anybody. Fire starts to spread. You got more people pounding. You got people jumping off of the balcony to get away from the fire. And you still just choose to ignore it. That is what medications do to your body. It shuts your body up while sacrificing more organs, more cells, more tissues in your body because you choose to take a medication. So what I want to urge people to do is start coming back to the root. Start simple. Start understanding that these medications that you're currently taking are synthetic and were derived from other things prior to their creation. You can Google it. You can look it up. What was the original blood pressure medication? What was the original thing for cholesterol? What was the original thing for this? And you'll find that it typically stems from a plant. I'm just saying. So from the placebo effect, whether you do believe or you don't believe, it's true, right? Like, so a man thinks it, so is he. Can I do something if I believe I can? Yes. Can I not do something, or can I do something that I don't believe I can? Then I'm not going to be able to do it. Do I believe I can heal naturally? Yes. Awesome. You're going to do great. Do you believe you can heal naturally? No. Then we're not going to work well together. I'm not here to drown people and push people into consuming holistic herbs, going back to the roots and going back to nature. I strongly recommend it, but if you're still stuck and you're straddling between medicine and the real world in terms of real life, real applications, clinical applications of herbs, I'm probably not the guy for you. I work really well with the people who are pissed off with the current medical system and they need something differently, because you're not going to get answers there. You're just going to get medications. They are not doctors of cause. They are doctors of treatment and doctors of medications. You're only going to get one of those two things when you go to your doctor, drugs or surgery. It's your choice, and you can't get pissed when you go there and you're like, my doctor only gives me medications. I'm so mad. Do something differently. And if you're like, well, my insurance doesn't cover it. Well, insurance is just a gateway to get you to go to your doctors, to continue to get you to take medications. You're going to have to invest in yourself now or later, or you're going to die on 20 different medications, miserable, and your family's going to be pissed off at you because you left them too soon. That's how passionate I get on this stuff. There is so much that is out there that is there for you. Change the way that we think. Have faith in your body. Have faith in natural stuff. Have faith that your body can heal, function, and operate the way that you were designed to, and your body will flourish. Yeah, I promise you it will. But if you have stinking thinking, you're not going to be very successful. Now, hopefully this podcast sheds some light on the placebo effect. I want you to do your own continuing education on this. Go find some really cool studies on this. They're everywhere. It really, truly is. Go find some studies. And then the more studies you read, the more studies you look up, the more you're going to back up the information with knowledge, the more confidence you'll have that the next time you have a cold, maybe you'll go and you need cough medicine, you go with old Indian cherry bark versus a Robitussin. Or you'll go to astragalus and albizia lebic, and you'll consume those tinctures, and you're like, I'm good, no problems. Right? Or you can go homeopathic. You can get one of those, I always spell it wrong, oscillum, those little things with little beads in it. You could take those and you're like, oh, if you believe it works, it'll work. If you don't, it won't. Right? So have fun with this, learn from this. And when you're starting your healing journey here in 2023, know the power of your subconscious mind. Book references that I have for you, okay? Any research and literature that you can find with Bruce Lipton is going to blow your mind. Take your time reading it. It's very nerdy. It's very heady. I love it, but it is. Dr. Joe Dispenza, his stuff is a lot easier to consume. Some of it's a little headier, but it's more based on like the modern world. So I love the books Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Okay, one of my best friends, Johnny L. Sasser, told me about that one. Blew my mind. We got 2 copies of it because Megan and I wanted to both read it. All right, so Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. We have one that's called Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. Power of the Subconscious Mind will also blow your mind because the subconscious mind is what allows you to have the placebo effect work. Those are 2 of my top references in this realm of things. If you have any others you want to say, hey, doc, you need to check this one out, please throw it my way. I'd love to be able to add some more books to my bookshelf. I have probably thousands at this point. This is just for aesthetics. If you're watching this video, I only have like 6 books on my shelf. I've got way more than that. Got like 20 over there. But anyways, thank you all as usual for for listening to this podcast, okay? Look into the old school stuff, the way things used to be. Look into old cultures, Native Americans. Look into traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese herbs, acupuncture. These types of things will blow your mind, and it's stuff that you can do at home, which is super cool. I love it. So I love y'all. Until next time.